Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, August 12th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Notre Dame game is in 22 days, the game against Michigan in 106 days. Secrecy around college football programs being what it is, about once a year we get a chance opportunity to watch a full practice over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Thursday was the day that happened this year, so we came away with some cool photos, some new insights on a few positions around the field, and maybe a few new names to watch moving forward. One of the folks who was there with me on Thursday was Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. We are absolutely thrilled to have him on the team now. That's only been official for a day or two at this point, but Kevin, great to have you back.
I'm so excited to be back. I'm ready to get going. I'm here with all of my friends, and I know that it's going to be an exciting season, an exciting time at Buckeye Huddle. So, keep an eye out for all of that. And I can't wait to turn my first tail of the tape. And before we can do that, before we can run, we have to learn to walk. And, that's what this practice is about. We're getting through practice before we can start talking about games.
Exactly, yeah. The BuckeyeHuddle.com site launching soon, very soon. We are 3 weeks away from the season. You should have a site for multiple weeks before the season. Let's leave it at that. But expecting to have that very, very soon. So you can look forward to that at Buckeye Huddle. Tony Gerderman and I did a whole episode of the Buckeye Weekly podcast talking about our impressions of practice. So I wanted to let you, Kevin, kind of discuss what you saw, more than anything else on this show. I guess let's start with the corners. Cam Brown's on a pitch count. Nothing is a major serious injury, but Cam Brown is on a pitch count. Jordan Hancock, Ryan Turner were working separately on the indoor. So there were only 3 scholarship corners who were full go on Thursday. How big of a concern is that to you right now?
It has to be a concern. It's seriously, we're not that far removed from Ohio State wanting to play 3 corners. And if you're going to play 3 corners, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the Jim Knowles, Perry Aliano, Tim Walton way, you have nothing left in reserve. You have Jake Seibert. So, that's, there's a concern there. Ryan Day was asked during interviews if these were long-term injuries. He said no, but, is it a hamstring? Is it something that, is a high ankle sprain? Is it something that's going to be a couple of weeks? Could it be half a year? We don't know what is going on for certain in terms of these situations. So, yeah, there's a concern. The good news is that Ohio State is very talented in the guys that it has. So it's not going to be a case of where Ohio State's going to have to rotate a lot because it's getting burnt. But if we're only a week into fall camp and you have, a couple of guys down already in a position that was thin to begin with, you need to put these dudes in bubble wrap. You have to be concerned about the ones that you have, and you have to make sure you bring the other guys around the right way. And the good news is once you get through Notre Dame, things maybe calm down a little bit with Arkansas State and then with Toledo before you get to Wisconsin, I believe, will be the next team. You want to make sure that you don't rush somebody back just for the sake of trying to get them back and then potentially lose them for the year. Because something that's not going to change is necessarily the depth in terms of who you can bring in. You can't call the AAA team down in Albuquerque and get somebody brought in. That's not how it works here in college football. Eli Ricks isn't on the other line right now waiting to transfer to Ohio State, so you got to make do with what you got.
Eli Ricks, yes. I think we've heard about him once or twice in relation to Ohio State. Yes, not coming to Ohio State, at least this season. Probably not ever. But, the healthiest corners right now are Denzel Burke, who is, that's the guy you'd want. Cam Brown, we did see him out there during the practice, but he was just sort of in and out a little bit. And then J.K. Johnson, who was the third guy with Jordan Hancock out. And then Jair Brown, who just recently lost his black stripe. So, you're feeling pretty good about him generally on the team, but as a true freshman, not someone you really want to throw out there day one if you can avoid it. So, yeah, I think that's not a problem yet, but definitely something you want to keep an eye on as at least a developing concern maybe. We get a chance, as I mentioned, to watch the whole practice, which is pretty unusual. Normally, we're in there for the first 4 periods or so, which means just about the time things are really getting interesting, we get escorted out. So we did get to watch the whole practice. That meant you got to watch some 7-on-7, maybe even a little 11-on-11 at one point. What was the most impressive play that you saw from during practice on Thursday?
I saw a lot of little, impressive moments. The thing is that your head's on a swivel. You're watching stuff. Ohio State was doing stuff on 2 fields. They have 4 outdoor practice fields. For those who have not had a tour of the Woody Hayes facility, 2 turf, 2 grass. They were on the 2 turf fields. We got to see, some big run pops that happened. We got to see a couple of interceptions along the way. I just think that the athleticism of the team is the thing that really kind of jumped out to me. You're not seeing them take guys down to the ground. I mean, players were admonished a couple of times when they're getting a little too physical. Stay up, stay up, stay up, stay up. But you can just tell, and I'm really looking forward, to get more feedback from the BTN gang once they sit there and they do their programming throughout the week and the next week of how this compares to other practices, of what they've seen. And I know that leading into Ohio State, they said that Maryland may have been the most impressive practice that they've been at. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, Jerry DiNardo and Howard Griffith and Dave Rebson are going to have a different tune after watching the Ohio State practice. But I mean, it seemed like a very spirited practice. Even if it was a little bit short for the veterans, they let the vets, they pulled them out and had them go through stretching and hit the cold tubs while they worked with the young guys. But I think that there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what's going on, especially when you have a coaching staff, if you will, that is a new construction with 4 new coaches and a ton new support guys and everything else. And I know that we're 7 practices in, so you better have this down. But it seemed like everything was going well. There wasn't a lot of which way do I go, which way do I go. Everybody knew what they were up to.
All right, and I will cast my vote for this was not one of the longest plays of the day, but Emeka Egbuka, and I don't know who was in coverage on him, but there was a very, very good coverage on him, and he managed to make a really impressive catch, kind of over the middle. That was I think my big one. Tony on the Buckeye Weekly Show talked about, I think, an 80-yard touchdown by Cade Stover. That was a pretty good one, apparently. So yeah, there were a bunch of notable plays, and as you said, there is a lot to watch out there. You've got a lot of times you got the skill guys on one field and then the linemen on another field, and it's just kind of what do you want to watch at any given moment. What to you has maybe been the biggest positive surprise either today or just kind of throughout the fall? What has been the biggest, I don't know, change on the team, or biggest positive, let's just stick with biggest positive surprise. That's probably the best way to ask this.
Well, I could answer this a couple of ways, and if I want to sit there and really kind of poke the hornet's nest, I could say from what I watched today was, are we going to see the tight end catch the ball a lot this year? Because there was a lot of throw into the tight end. And, that was pretty exciting to see all of that, because you mentioned the 80-yarder to Cade Stover, and we saw, I didn't get to see a ton of Joe Royer, but, obviously we got to see some of the other guys out there. But, I think that I really enjoyed watching the backup quarterbacks. I put a lot of emphasis on watching Kyle McCord, watching Devin Brown, seeing what the drop-off is. Is it a case of where, C.J. Stroud is just head and shoulders above everybody, or is it a case of, what happens if Kyle McCord or Devin Brown have to come in there? And I think that, they're certainly not as sharp as Stroud. They're not. They haven't had a season of preparation. They neither of them finished 4th in the Heisman. Rewrote a bunch of records, on the pace to break a bunch of records this year. But I think that the quarterback position is in very good hands at Ohio State moving forward with those guys. I could probably go through every position and say there's a lot of positives here and there, but I think that my eyes, being the old television guy that I am, I want to look at the guy who has the ball in his hand. So my eyes generally go right to the quarterback. And, that was something that certainly drew my attention.
All right. So lots of stuff to feel good about. Let's take it down a notch. Let's bring the mood down. Let's bum everyone out a little bit. What is, and I guess this is not even necessarily bumming people out. This is just sort of, what are you maybe the least certain about? What is the biggest question mark on the team right now? Ryan Day talked about the corners being one of his top 3 concerns. What, is that it, or is it something else? What is one of your, what's the biggest question mark to you?
Well, I think my biggest question obviously is going to be the corner depth and how quickly are guys going to be able to get back. And again, when you're only dealing with 6 that you have when everybody's right, that's not particularly deep to begin with. But I'm really interested okay, we know at linebacker right now it seems that Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg seem to have a pretty nice lead in terms of the starting positions. But where does Taraja Mitchell kind of fit into this? How do things break up there? I mean, obviously Ohio State is going to get a full season out of Palai'e Naoteote. I mean, in theory, because he's not in transfer purgatory. But I think that linebacker play last year really left a lot to be desired in certain instances in terms of times where Ohio State struggled. I don't know if even with today's practice, I had enough of an opportunity to see a lot there. So, I'm gonna just take the low hanging fruit and say that I'm still not sold on linebacker, even though I think that there are a lot of tremendous athletes. And I think, obviously with that being the position that Jim Knowles is focusing on, there's going to be a lot of emphasis and a lot of attention put there, but I need to see it in a game.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good answer, because it feels like there's separation there, and then we still don't quite know, is the separation because there's a big drop off to the second team, or is it because the first two guys are so great and they've really established themselves? And that is, like you said, something you might only find out once you get into a game situation and the bullets are flying for real. Who is the guy? We have seen quite a bit from the spring through the summer to now. Who is the guy who has come the furthest in your mind, either since the spring or, over the course of the last year? Who's the guy whose role on the team or whose ceiling on the team maybe has changed the most in your mind?
Wow. And that one I could sit there and I could get lost with what I saw on Thursday versus, maybe the big picture. Somebody that I was really excited that I got a chance to see a lot of, more than I thought, was going to be Michael Hall on the defensive line, a defensive tackle. I mean, he was out there early with the first team and doing things. And, he's somebody that I've always felt is going to be a critical piece. But you sit there and you look at his position, and when you have a lot of veterans returning at the position, what does that mean in terms of how much is he going to be impactful there? I mean, are they, is Larry Johnson going to continue trying to, keep guys around 30 snaps so you can go as hard as you can every time you're out there? I also think that somebody else that just in terms of where we last saw them to where we kind of saw them today, how about Lathan Ransom, who nobody really thought that he should be out there playing yet at this point, goes down in the Rose Bowl with a nasty injury. That's supposed to be every bit of a 9-month injury, and he's out there and he doesn't really seem to have a lot of, limitations on him. So he's somebody else that I'm very excited about what's going on there. And I'm going to throw a third name out, and I could be getting ahead of you in terms of another question that could be coming my way. I just can't stop being impressed with Sonny Styles. And, we've all talked about, well, hell, if he can't get in at safety right now, maybe they should have him play corner. He is a safety with corner skills, but he also might be a linebacker with corner skills. I mean, he certainly has the hips and some things to do that, but I don't know if I'm ready to thrust him in there, but he certainly is every bit of the freak that we thought he would be.
Yeah, and I mean, just to go back to your first answer there, Mike Hall, that was, I think, maybe the guy I was most impressed with at practice on Thursday, because it feels like of the second-year defensive linemen, you got Tuimoloau, you got Sawyer, you got Tyleik Williams, and those feel like those are the three guys that everyone's talking about. And then there's Mike Hall, who feels like he's just kind of the forgotten man, and he's not, the enormous guy with the quick feet like Tyleik Williams. He's not the guy with the 5-star pedigree like Sawyer and Tuimoloau. He was a top 100, maybe even top 50 guy, though, and he has the reputation. He just kind of gets forgotten. And then you see him, and it was just like, oh, that looks like someone who might really play a role this year. So yeah, I think you had a couple good answers there, but I think Mike Hall would probably be at the top of my list as well. All right, last one for you. Has either the ceiling or the most likely outcome changed for you for this team in the last few weeks? Have you seen anything that really materially changes what you think this team could or should be this fall?
Well, I don't know if my ceiling can really go up, because I already kind of had this team as a 12-0, go to the Big Ten championship game, go to the college football playoff, and let the chips fall where they may. I don't know if I've seen anything to say that the chips are decidedly going to fall in one position. So I think that my ceiling has maintained. In terms of the basement, I don't know. I mean, I think this team is is what I thought it was. I really do. I mean, obviously the corner situation is something that we weren't talking about 2 weeks ago as an Ohio State media beat. So, I don't know if we necessarily saw that there. I don't know if Notre Dame is going to necessarily be able to be a team that's going to exploit them in terms of that. And that's not taking anything away from Sonny Styles' brother, Lorenzo Jr., who is a leading receiver on that team. But we've gone in through lots of years of where we've said this team, who's going to beat them? Who's going to get within 17 of them? And then Purdue happens, or then Iowa happens, and something goes awry. But I think that there's a little bit of a special vibe with this team. And again, it's very easy. A week into practice, they're all staying over there at the Hyatt Place and playing cards and doing whatever, and spirits are high, even though they're in the grind of fall camp. But I don't think that I see two losses out of this team. I could see potentially a loss happening along the way. It's hard to win them all. I've said it once and I'll say it again. We get 9 weeks into the season and there's 7 undefeated teams, and people are freaking out because what does this mean when there's 7 undefeated teams? And it's like, look, math. There's no way that you can have 7 undefeated teams because these 4 teams play each other and this happens. And we get to the end of the year and maybe there's 1 undefeated team. If there's 1 undefeated team at the end of this year, though, it might be Ohio State.
Yeah, everyone wants to point to Nick Saban and go, well, why can't they do what he does? And Alabama loses at least 1 game most years. They don't go undefeated most seasons. So yeah, I am always the hater in the preseason media poll where they ask, what is Ohio State's regular season record going to be? And it's always like 38 people picking 12-0, and I'm the only jerk picking 11-1, just because odds are you're going to drop a game at some point, and it's not even that I can tell you it's going to be this game. It's just, it's a long season. Crazy stuff happens. Sometimes at Purdue is on the schedule. Sometimes at Iowa is on the schedule. These things happen, but yes, 11-1 is always a good pick. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I've seen anything that materially changes it, because I don't think there's not much room to go up, and I don't think I've seen anything to significantly lower my expectations for the season. So I think that's that's probably about as good as good as it's going to get. This is one of these, you can't win the national championship during the summer, but you can lose it, with injuries or bad practices or whatever. I don't think I've seen anything that would lose them the national championship so far. So I guess so far so good for Ohio State this fall. So far so good for Buckeye Huddle as well. We, as I mentioned, Kevin obviously on board, Tony Gerderman, Mark Givler, Alex Gleitman, Ross Fulton, the whole gang. Lots of fun, lots of folks there. Full site expected to launch in just a few days. We should hopefully have some news and some specifics on that very shortly for you. We cannot wait. We are very excited. Also, and make sure if you are listening to this as a podcast, make sure you are also subscribed to the Buckeye Weekly feed. Also, the Big Me Kickoff feed. Kevin will be on the Big Me Kickoff feed again, doing his podcast. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then congratulations, you have found our YouTube channel. Good job. Make sure you're subscribed. If you are not watching this on YouTube, go to my Twitter, at Tom Orr 4. My pinned tweet right now is a link to our correct YouTube feed. Make sure you are subscribed, because if you search Buckeye Huddle, sometimes you'll get a channel called Ohio Preps. That is not the right channel. That is not the correct channel anymore. Make sure you get subscribed to the correct channel so get all of our live shows, all of our pregame shows, all of our postgame shows, all that good stuff, all for free, all at YouTube. That'll do it for today. That'll do it for this week. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on Monday.